Hello everybody, welcome back to another book to game comparison video for the Nancy Drew series. Today I am talking about the Shattered Medallion. So the first thing I'm going to do is talk about the source material, which of course is a novel. It is real fake. It is the third super mystery of the Nancy Drew Girl Detective series, and it was published in 2007. Following that, I'm going to dissect the game. This is, of course, the Shattered Medallion, released in 2014, and it is the 30th game in the Nancy Drew series. Hard to believe. So before I jump in, a reminder that spoilers are going to be, spoiled. I will talk about culprits and specific events from both the book and the game, so consider yourselves forewarned. So as usual, I'm going to start by talking about our source material, which again is a book titled Real Fake. It is from the Nancy Drew Girl Detective series. It is a super mystery, and it is the third super mystery from that series. So we have Nancy, who is a contestant on a reality TV show called Mystery Solved. And she, along with a bunch of other American contestants, are in Paris, France, trying to solve a rather grand fake mystery. So this is a mystery that's been set up for the purposes of the show. It's not an incident that has actually happened. And in this case, the mystery is who has stolen a $1 million diamond necklace. And really fancy, they are using an actual $1 million diamond necklace. They're not using a fake one for this mystery. They want it to seem real, like a genuine mystery, but it's also a way of promoting this company, Laurier Jewelers. So we have a whole bunch of characters in this book, all these contestants who are working initially together, and then they branch off to try and figure out who has stolen this necklace, and they all want to win. They want to come in first place, as there is a cash prize for the winner. So Nancy is involved in interviewing these actors who are pretending to be suspects. She's working through a bunch of clues. She's trying to figure out who to trust, not just of her suspects, but of her fellow contestants. Who's going to stay by her side? Who can she work with? And in all this, Nancy discovers a second real mystery. So not just this fake one that's been created for Mystery Solved, but another one, a true mystery that is also happening sort of with the mystery show. And in addition to this craziness, Nancy and some of the other contestants receive threatening emails from an unknown person. So before we talk any further about the actual story and who is behind everything, I'll just do a quick rundown of the characters. So we have Dee Darby. She is sort of the head honcho of the television show. It is her creation, and she is often around. Then we have Elizabeth, who does not have a last name, and she's basically Dee's next in command. She's who she goes to for everything, sort of her assistant. Then we have Jean Alain, who also does not have a last name, and he is a cameraman. And he often gets paired up with Nancy because cameramen are following all of the contestants so that the show is always able to show what's going on with each of the detectives for this fake mystery. And then we have a whole bunch of other contestants. So we've got Hamish Watson, Wendy Garcia, Chen Li, Althea Eisner, Tyler Cox, Mary Lee Abernathy, and Fish. He too does not have a last name, and that is his choice. And I'll talk a little bit more about the characters, these other contestants, and their backgrounds a little bit later. So Nancy's got to deal with all of her fellow Americans trying to figure out again, what these clues mean. That they get clues at the beginning of each day, and they are interviewing their suspects. And then some of her contestants, or fellow contestants rather, break off, and they don't work with the larger group. And then more people break off, and pretty soon it's just Nancy and Hamish. They're the last two standing from the original group. I mean, the others are still participating. They're just not all working together. But that's who she's basically teamed up with, and now they're sort of on their own trying to figure out the mystery before anybody else can solve it. And what they discover is, obviously who's behind the fake theft, which I'm not going to get into here. I'm not going to spoil that mystery. But Nancy then has to figure out what the real mystery was. And she figures that it seems like someone's actually trying to steal the real necklace. And it turns out to be two members of the crew. Two of the members who are listed under characters, and I'll mention them in a a little while here, but you can guess in the little meantime. They have this plan to steal the real necklace after the show has wrapped up, and they almost get away with it. But Nancy figures it out and catches them just after they've swapped out the necklace. As to the threatening emails, it turns out Chen, so a fellow contestant, was the one sending those, and he was pretty sure Nancy would be good at solving mysteries. He didn't trust her to not do well, so he sends these emails to try and throw people off their game in hopes that he might be more successful and also that Nancy won't be. So that's sort of the gist of the book. Now let's look at the game. So this is game number 30, as I already mentioned. Can we believe that there are already 30 games at this point and there's still more to go? And it is the Shattered Medallion. So we have a very similar premise. Nancy and George are contestants on a reality television series, and it is called Pacific Run. So rather than focusing on a mystery, Pacific Run is a bunch of teams working together, teams on their own, working through clues and trying to be the quickest at solving these challenges, and other contestants are eventually eliminated. And so it's just a competition in that respect. It's not necessarily a mystery. However, shortly before the show starts, George winds up injured. And then we have this unexpected presence of Sonny Joon. He shows up, as he always does, in unexpected places, but we get to see him in the flesh. And Nancy realizes that there's more than just a TV show happening here in New Zealand on Pacific Run. There are strange things afoot. And Nancy finds these little pages of comics at various locations that the show takes place in. And they sort of reveal this strange plot involving the other contestants on the show. And they have very specific roles that they're going to play in what appears to be activating an ancient artifact. So not only is Nancy trying to deal with being a good contestant, solving these clues and trying to win this show, not just for herself, but also for George, who's laid up and can't participate, but she's also got to deal with this wacky side story and figuring out what is up with Sonny Joon. And so Nancy is continuing to sleuth while the show is underway, and she's looking into Sonny's true motives, which is easier said than done. And she's not alone, though, because despite the fact that George is injured, Bess happened to come along, and so she takes her cousin's place. And not only does she want to help Nancy with the show and be there for George, but she also is really trying to find her calling. So this is really an important moment for Bess as well. So before I go on any further, I'm going to talk about the other characters outside of Nancy, Bess, and George. So we have Lena Patel, Patrick Dowsett, Kiri Nind, or Nind, I'm not sure how her name is pronounced, unfortunately, and Sonny Joon. And there are other contestants, but we don't interact with them. They get eliminated, or in the case of Kiri's partner, Erin, she winds up injured and leaves the show. So we don't meet the majority of the contestants. So we're dealing with a whole bunch of wackiness. And what we learn is that Jin, who is Sonny's grandfather, had set this relative on a path to find an old artifact. And it's this big deal for Sonny. It's a connection to his grandfather, who he really believes in, who has some rather strange ideas. And so Sonny really takes it to heart, and he basically hijacks the show. He takes it over, and he limits the show in a rather important way. Typically, Pacific Run takes place in multiple places, not just a single country. They wouldn't just be in New Zealand, but they would go to other areas, like maybe Fiji, just as an example, because it's still within the Pacific. But Sonny has restricted it just to this small part of the South Island of New Zealand, and that's to suit his needs for finding this artifact and then activating it. And he is basically the one who selected the contestants because he thinks that they fit this need, I guess, to activate this artifact. So he is sort of fiddled with a bunch of things. He's hijacked the show in a few different ways. Now, in addition to Sonny's side story, we still have this competition where there have been injuries, such as how George was injured, and that didn't seem like an accident. It seemed as though someone actually perpetrated, shall we say, this act that resulted in injury. So someone is harming contestants, someone's knocking out the competition. And it turns out that that's Kiri. And it's this ruthlessness that she has that's led to sabotaging the bridge where George and then Aaron were injured. And this is all in her determination to win. So that is the game, and now let's begin the actual comparison between the book and game. So our titles are quite different. The book is called Real Fake. The game is called The Shattered Medallion. Yeah, they couldn't really use the same title. Her Interactive couldn't take the book's title for the game. It doesn't quite work. I mean, Real Fake is sort of a reflection of looking for this necklace in the mystery TV show that the book is all about. This fake necklace, and then looking for a real necklace. So it just doesn't work for the game. The game has a title based on part of the competition as well. And that's these medallion pieces that you have to find, collect, and put back together to form a single medallion. And the first person to do that is the winner. So both titles draw from the actual mystery, but they are very different mysteries between the two mediums, so there's no overlap in terms of title. The storylines, however, are a little bit more similar. So for the book, Nancy tries to solve both a fake and a real mystery while on a reality TV show. So she's got two things she's dealing with in the book. And then the game, Nancy looks into accidents and ulterior motives also on a reality TV show. So she's dealing with a TV show and some accidents there, and what's actually going on with Sonny and why has he brought these specific people together. So she's also dealing with two things in this story. Third thing to look at is location. They are quite different. Our location for the book is Paris, France. Not the case for the game. That is in New Zealand, specifically the South Island. And there's a very important and clear reason for this change. We could actually say two. One is that Paris had already been a location for a game, number 14, Danger by Design. So I presume Her Interactive didn't really want to reuse a location if possible, and really you could tell this kind of story anywhere. But they also created, not really a competition, but there was a draw for people who had pre-ordered one of the games. I believe it was The Deadly Device. They were entered into a draw, and the person who was drawn got to choose the location for this game, which is pretty awesome. So that is why we have a different location, because the winner chose New Zealand. And I think that's also a great way to honor the 30th game. So that is why we have a different location, and I think that is A-okay. So now let's talk about characters. There's not a lot of overlap, and I've sort of set things up so that where there's overlap or similarities, they're the first characters, and then from there I'll talk about the individual characters from the book, and then the individual characters from the game. So our first and really main point of overlap are with Dee and Sonny. So they're the point of contact for the contestants on the show. Dee is the creator, host, and executive producer of Mystery Solved. So she wears a lot of hats, and this show is her baby. Sonny, not quite the same. He's the line producer of Pacific Run, and he's just taken over the show, but it's not his show. He just hijacked it. He has ulterior motives for being in New Zealand with these specific contestants. So beyond sort of being the head honcho, they are a bit different. Then we have Elizabeth and Jean-Alain. So there are two characters from the book. They are two of the three who do not have last names. They are crew members who work for Dee, and they have plotted to steal the Laurier Jewelers diamond necklace after the show ends. And Nancy, at one point, overhears a whispered conversation at night, and she's not sure initially who is talking, but she knows it sounds fishy. Not fishy in terms of having fish involved, the character. But she knows that there's something else going on. There's another mystery. And in the end, she catches them just after they've taken the necklace. So they are the criminals in the book. Now we have Wendy and Kiri, and there's a little bit of overlap with these two characters, but in many ways they're not the same. But they are a contestant with a history involving television. So in the book, Wendy is an actress and a model. So she's not actually involved in reality TV, but she has acted. She's done a commercial and she does some modeling. and she is not a culprit. She teams up with Tyler as the contest continues. And that's sort of it for Wendy. Then the game counterpart is Kiri, who is a local. She has a long-standing association with reality television. It's sort of her. It's how she works. It's her income. She's involved in reality TV, and she wants to win really badly, and so she plays dirty to achieve her goals. She is responsible for the cut rope bridge, and she later on tries to strand Nancy and Sonny in a cavern. So she is not all that nice. Wendy's actually pretty nice. Kiri, not so much. She can fake it pretty well, but overall, she's and ultimately, she's selfish and just wants to win. So from here, we just have sort of standalone characters. There's no overlap between the book and game versions. I can't even say versions because, there's no overlap. So I'll quickly go over the remaining characters from the book. I'll start with Hamish. He's a big fan of Sherlock Holmes. He really dresses the part, and he often makes references to the Sherlock Holmes adventures as they progress through the mystery show. And he and Nancy work closely together over the course of the whole show. So those two have always worked together. They don't part ways. Next we have Chen. He's a video game designer who specializes in mystery computer games. We know he was created for the fans. So he has this tech background, and he is the one who sends emails to the other contestants to make them nervous and hopes that it will increase his odds of winning the show. And he also just really wants to throw Nancy off her game. And at one point, he and Althea partner up. So I'll talk about her next. She's a university student. She's a keen reader of mystery stories. And that's one thing all these characters have in common is they're all big mystery fans. Hence why they're participating on a mystery reality TV show. And as noted before, Althea and Chen break away from the rest of the group, sort of early on in Mystery Solved. Next we have Tyler, who's rather cocky. He's an investment banker. He's super confident that he will win the show. He kind of says that right off the bat. He is so desperate, though, to win that he offers money to the other contestants so that they will share their clues with him, and it mostly doesn't work. And he and Wendy wind up joining forces. So I've already talked about Wendy, so I'm going to move on to Mary Lee, another mystery fan, of course. She seems kind of quiet at first, but she also shows great insight when she's working through clues, and she always wants to run things by Nancy. She's really excited when Nancy agrees with her deductions, and she's really quite a sweet character. But she eventually leaves the group to work with Fish, and this is because she received a threatening email telling her to not work with Nancy. So that's why she left the group. It's not that she really wanted to branch out on her own or just her and Fish. It's because she was threatened to, but she does really value working with Nancy. So then I will talk about Fish, of course. He's rather philosophical, and he's also easily distracted by pretty contestants, specifically Mary Lee. He has a big crush on her pretty quickly. And he really doesn't contribute much to the mystery solving. He's sort of off in his own little world, we'll put it that way. And so he teams up with Mary Lee around the time that she gets the threatening email. So that's it for book characters. Then we will look at the two remaining characters from the game who haven't already been brought up. And these two are partnered up in the game. So we'll start with Lena. She's really great with codes and cryptic messages. That's sort of her livelihood is, decoding things. And she really uses language to her advantage. So she's very careful with the rules and interpreting what they mean, and uses that to to her advantage. And she has also met Sonny's grandfather, Jin. And she's got a really funny story about that, which play the game or watch a playthrough of it to hear. I think it's super sweet. So then we have her partner Patrick, who is a partner in multiple senses. They work together on the show, but they're also dating. And he is a rather well-known rugby player, and he's very disinterested in fame. He doesn't like the spotlight, and he's sort of offbeat. He feels very different from his family, and in many ways he seems like a simpleton, like things just don't faze him, but there's more to him, and Lena really shares this, and he's got this depth to him that is easily overlooked. People don't know is there, and it's that depth that helps him to really connect with Bess, which I think she really appreciates. So that's it for characters. And now we'll quickly talk about similar themes or elements between the book and game. So the big one obviously is reality TV. Both stories involve Nancy participating in a reality television show. In the book, this is about solving a mystery on a show called Mystery Solved, whereas the game, it's a competition involving a bunch of different activities such as puzzle solving and retrieving pieces of a medallion before other teams are able to accomplish those same tasks. So very similar, the premise is the same. The next thing to note are confessionals. So in the book, there is a segment called Candid Confessions, where the contestants are interviewed, and it's meant to be a candid moment. They can share their opinion. They can talk badly about the other players, or just talk about how the show's going, that sort of thing. And they are mandatory. The participants must do candid confessions when they are called to do them. And this is different from the game. There's a confessional booth. Nancy looks at it and she makes a crack about how she'll talk to herself instead of talking in the booth. So it's completely voluntary in the game. And the last thing to know is just sort of the way contestants work in the two stories. So in the book, you start off with a large group of contestants and they are working together initially. And that's a decision they make at the outset of the show is, are we going to start by working together? Are we going to branch off? Do we want to work in teams? What do we want to do? So they choose to start off by working together. But then eventually they branch out on their own, often in pairs. In the game, it's not set up that way. It's not cooperative in any sense beyond just your team member who you've started the show with, who you've come to participate on Pacific Run with. And it is a true contest. You are working against the other players as everyone else is steadily eliminated from the show. So that setup is a bit different. So with that, it's time to conclude. So the novel from 2007 provided the main premise for the 2014 game. And this is a reality television competition. And the competitions are a little bit different. In both stories, Nancy's working through clues to reach the end of the challenge, but what that challenge is differs. So the book focuses on solving a grander mystery. It's a one single story, in this case, a theft of a $1 million necklace, while the game involves many little challenges and just working toward the end, getting your final medallion piece and being the winner. As to characters, there is very little character overlap. I mean, we have, again, that main point of contact is, that role is the same, although the person is different between the stories. And obviously there are contestants in both, but the personalities, the drives are quite different between those characters. And as I've noted with many of the last several comparison videos, no names are reused, so we don't have a character from the game who has the same name as a character from the book. That just doesn't happen anymore. The settings are different, and this is because, as noted already, the book took place in Paris, which was already used in an earlier game, but more importantly, the location was chosen by the winner of a draw. So Her Interactive opened up this opportunity for a fan to choose the location for this game. So that is the main reason why the location is different. The game also expands on a character that they created many moons ago, Sonny Joon. He was first introduced in their 6th game, Secret of the Scarlet Hand, and this is someone who is not from the books. So here again, the game does differ quite a bit from the source material because it's got this secondary focus on a character of their own creation. So the game really follows this subplot involving him. And so it does make for a rather different story. Just as far as opinion goes, I enjoy the competition aspect of the book and game. I think that's really neat, and I think that's something Nancy would absolutely do. What feels off to me is it being part of reality TV. I just can't see Nancy doing that. And so that I don't enjoy. It seems wrong to me. So that's really my conclusion. I mean, these stories have a similar premise, reality television, participating in a competition, but the competitions are different. The locations are different and the characters are very different. So there we have it. That is my book to game comparison video for Real Fake, the third super mystery of the Nancy Drew Girl Detective series, and the 30th Nancy Drew adventure game, The Shattered Medallion. So we do see more similarities between these two stories than we have in the last couple that I've done comparison videos for. That's because of the premise being the same. This idea of participating in a challenge and it being a reality TV show at that. So, we do get that that main storyline across in both, but the directions they take are quite different, and same with the characters involved, and of course, as already noted, the whole Sonny Joon thing being a key factor of the game. Sonny is not part of the book, so that's obviously going to be very different from the source material. This was sort of hard to do. I've really put off finishing this comparison video because, again, not having characters to compare to each other is difficult. It's not as interesting, so it's hard for me to find the drive to get this done, because I can't say, oh, here's where her interactive took this element and put it in this character, because it doesn't really happen in this game, which is disappointing. So I keep hoping we'll see more character overlap. I mean, there is a teeny tiny bit with two characters here, but that's it. It's not much. It really is, once again, more of a story that Her Interactive created on their own. They used the premise of the book, but otherwise took the whole thing in a whole different direction. So that's going to wrap up this comparison video. Thank you very much for watching and or listening, and I will catch you all in the next one. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.